Here is what you are going to see in this video. First, we are going to show you Major General Mary Motsepe's testimony, where she blames Mkhwanazi for refusing to take back 118 murder dockets. We will break down her exact words and the picture she is trying to paint. Second, and this is where it gets good, we will show you the exact moment the commissioners corner her with a simple, logical question that she cannot answer. Why did these dockets leave KwaZulu-Natal in the first place, if all they needed was a simple audit? Third, we will show you her shocking admission where she says, and I quote, that she also put herself in Mkhwanazi's shoes, and that you cannot just take dockets and say, simply audit, and then later proceed with investigations. Guys, she defended him. The witness sent to dirty him ended up defending him. And finally, we will expose the complete chaos she revealed. No plan. Stock theft detectives investigating political assassinations. Dockets sitting in a safe for 2 months. Generals playing pass the parcel with murder cases while families wait for justice. This is what happens when you send an honest person to defend a dishonest case. So please click that like button right now and subscribe to this channel, because we are going deep into this testimony and you do not want to miss a single moment. It does not cost anything to subscribe and liking this video. Thank you. Let me introduce you to the key player in this drama, Major General Mary Motsepe. According to her testimony, she is the head of a component in the detective services at the National Police Headquarters that deals with priority crimes, including political killings. She was not directly involved when the dockets were first taken from KwaZulu-Natal, but when she came back from leave at the end of April 2025, she found these 118 dockets just sitting there in a safe in her building. And she became the person responsible for figuring out what to do with them. Now, from her testimony, it seems like she is genuinely frustrated with the situation. She keeps calling her bosses, asking what the plan is, trying to get movement on these cases. But here is the key thing you need to understand. She is testifying in a way that makes it look like the problem is Mkhwanazi refusing the dockets. But the commissioners are about to flip that script completely. Let us start with her version of events. Let me play you the key parts of her testimony, where she describes Mkhwanazi's refusal and what happened next. Pay close attention, because this is the foundation of the blame game she is trying to play. Dlamini, roll the first clip.
Then she phoned General Mkhwanazi. It's now May month. After some time, maybe 2 to 3, 4 days, I called her just to find out what the General Mkhwanazi is saying. It's me who's persisting about this docket, because it's a concern for me. Then she called General Mkhwanazi. Then General Mkhwanazi said that she told me back now, when I called her again, just to find out what did General Mkhwanazi said. Then she said that General Mkhwanazi said that he's got nothing to do with those dockets. I even said, just like that, as a provincial commissioner, actually those dockets belongs to him. He's the main custodian of the docket as a provincial commissioner. Then she said, hey, I don't know, what am I going to do?
Okay, stop. Let us break this down word by word, because this is where Major General Motsepe is trying to set the trap for Mkhwanazi. Listen to how she frames it. She says she called her boss, General Senzo Mchunu, to find out what General Mkhwanazi had said about the dockets being returned to KwaZulu-Natal. And according to her testimony, General Sentumule told her that Mkhwanazi said, quote, "He's got nothing to do with those ticket," unquote. Then Motsepe adds her own commentary. She says, as a provincial commissioner, actually, those docket belongs to him. He's the main custodian of the docket. She is trying to paint Mkhwanazi as someone who is shirking his responsibility. She is saying, look, these are your dockets. You are the custodian. You cannot just refuse them. Now, on the surface, this sounds terrible for Mkhwanazi, right? It sounds like he is abandoning murder cases. It sounds like he is refusing to do his job. That is exactly the impression she wants to create. But here is where you need to start asking questions. If these dockets belong to KwaZulu-Natal, if Mkhwanazi is the custodian, then why did they leave KwaZulu-Natal in the first place? Who authorized taking them away from their rightful custodian? And for what reason? She tells us the reason was an audit. But as we are about to see, the commissioners are not satisfied with that answer, not even close. Before we get to the commissioner's questions, let me show you another part of her testimony where she describes what happened after Mkhwanazi refused. This is important because it shows the chaos at the national level. Nobody knew what to do with these dockets. They were like a hot potato that nobody wanted to hold. Dlamini, play the next section.
Then I said, we must do something. Then she said, let me call the National Commissioner. She called the National Commissioner. After some days again, I called her just to find out what did the National Commissioner response. Then she said that the National Commissioner said that General Sibiya must ensure, or General Sibiya, it is his environment, he can use his own discretion about those dockets.
Did you catch that? The National Commissioner, the top cop in the entire country, was asked what to do with 118 political murder cases. And his answer was basically, General Sibiya, you figure it out. Use your own discretion. Aish, guys, can you believe this? We are talking about political killings here. High-profile, sensitive murder investigations that could involve powerful people, criminal syndicates, political interference. And the National Commissioner's instruction is just, A, use your discretion, no clear plan, no proper handover process. No consideration for the families waiting for justice or the prosecutors waiting for case updates. Just, you figure it out. This is not how a professional police service is supposed to operate. This is not how you handle murder investigations, but we will come back to this chaos. First, let us get to the moment where the commissioners start to corner Major General Motsepe. The first commissioner to really challenge her narrative is one of the evidence leaders, and he asks her a very simple, very logical question. If these dockets were taken to Gauteng just for an audit, why did they need to leave KwaZulu-Natal at all? It is such a simple question, but watch how it completely dismantles the official story. Dlamini, roll this critical moment.
Meant to be returned to KZN, and you're telling us as early as the 28th of March, or the end of March, there seemed to have been already a consideration and decision that they would go back to KZN. What would have been the point of National conducting an audit on dockets that are going to be returning where they come from? What would be the purpose?
Boom, there it is. The question that breaks everything. The commissioner is not shouting. He is not being aggressive. He is just asking a simple, logical question. If the plan was always to return these dockets to KwaZulu-Natal, why did national headquarters need to audit them? You could have sent auditors to KwaZulu-Natal. You could have asked the provincial office to do the audit. Why move 118 sensitive murder investigation files hundreds of kilometers away just to count pieces of paper? And listen to Motsepe's answer. She has no good answer. She basically says, maybe the generals at the national level will explain. She passes the buck. She cannot defend the logic of it because there is no logic to defend. But the commissioner is not done. He smells blood in the water. He pushes further. And this is where it gets really, really good. He points out that it makes no sense for dockets to come all the way to Pretoria just for a simple audit exercise. And then he invites her to comment on whether it is understandable that Mkhwanazi would react the way he did. Dlamini, play this next section.
I'm just trying to place myself in General Mkhwanazi's seat. The dockets are taken for a purpose that does not make sense, purportedly to conduct this simple process, which is to audit them. And it just doesn't make sense that they should have come to Gauteng for that purpose. In that sense, perhaps one can, and I'm going to invite your comment on this, one can understand why General Mkhwanazi would have reacted the way that he did.
This is where she accidentally vindicates Mkhwanazi. Oh my word, do you see what just happened there? The commissioner just laid out the entire problem in one simple paragraph. He said, let me put myself in Mkhwanazi's shoes. The dockets are taken for a purpose that does not make sense. The purpose is supposedly a simple audit, but it makes no sense to bring them to Gauteng for that. And then he says, given to all of that, maybe one can understand why Mkhwanazi reacted the way he did. He is basically saying maybe Mkhwanazi was right to be suspicious. Maybe Mkhwanazi was right to refuse. And now he asks Motsepe to comment. What is she going to say? Is she going to defend the nonsense? Is she going to keep trying to dirty Mkhwanazi? Or is she going to tell the truth? Well, let me tell you, what happens next is absolutely beautiful. Major General Mary Motsepe, the witness who came to make Mkhwanazi look bad, does something incredible. She tells the truth. She admits that she would do exactly what Mkhwanazi did. Play her response. This is the money shot.
If you wanted the dockets purely to audit them, why take them to Gauteng?
It's true, Commissioner. I also put myself in the shoes of General Mkhwanazi. You can't just take docket and you say it's simply audit, then later proceed with investigations.
Because you could have audited them in KZN. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about those who wanted purportedly. Yes. I'm not even saying that I'm accepting that the real purpose for taking them was to audit them. Could have been done in KZN. Simple exercises, you've explained it.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yes, Ms. Pori.
Stop. Rewind that. Play it again. Listen to those words very carefully. She says, I also put myself in the shoes of General Mkhwanazi's. She is admitting that she empathizes with Mkhwanazi. Then she says the quiet part out loud. You can't just take docket and you say simply audit, then later proceed with investigations. Guys, do you understand what she just said? She just admitted that the official story, that these dockets were taken just for an audit, is nonsense. She is admitting that the real plan was to take them and then proceed with investigations at the national level. That was never communicated properly. That was never agreed to. And Mkhwanazi, as the provincial commissioner, had every right to be suspicious of this shady process. And then she delivers the final blow to her own case. She says, you could have audited them in case at end. She is agreeing with the commissioner. She is saying the audit excuse makes no sense. These dockets should never have left KwaZulu-Natal. Guys, I cannot make this up. The witness who was supposed to make Mkhwanazi look like the bad guy just stood up in that commission and said, actually, he was right. I would have done the same thing. If I was him, I would have refused too. This is what we call, in the legal world, a hostile witness turning. This is what happens when you send an honest person to defend a dishonest story. They cannot help but tell the truth, even if it destroys the case they were supposed to be making. Major General Mary Motsepe just became Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's best character witness, and she did not even realize it. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but maybe she is just being diplomatic. Maybe she is trying to be fair to everyone. No, keep watching. Because the commissioners are not done with her. They are going to keep digging. And what they uncover next is even more damaging. They are going to force her to admit that there was no plan. None. Zero. Zilch. The political killings task team was disbanded, and the people in charge at the national level had absolutely no documented plan for what would happen to these sensitive murder investigations. Let me show you. So surely, before you disband such a critical unit, you have a plan, right? Surely there is a document that says, here is how we are going to handle the transition. Here is who will take over the cases. Here is the timeline. Here is how we will communicate with the families and the prosecutors. Surely that exists, right? Dlamini, let me show you what the commissioner asked Major General Motsepe about this. Pay very close attention to her answer.
It had been disbanded. That was your understanding, right?
Yes, that was my understanding.
Is it fair to say that there was no documented plan, a written plan, that was going to deal with the after? What happens after the PKTT is disbanded? Who's going to investigate this KZN political killings? What is going to happen to the dockets? Who's going to be the custodian? Who's going to account to the families in KZN who lost their loved ones? Who's going to account to the courts and the prosecutors in KZN about the cases they were involved with?
Listen to that question. The commissioner is not asking a vague, philosophical question. He is asking very specific things. Who investigates? Who is the custodian? Who accounts to the families? Who accounts to the courts? These are basic, fundamental questions that should have been answered before you disband a unit handling 118 murder cases. This is not rocket science. This is basic police administration. So, what was Major General Motsepe's answer? Dlamini, play her response? And I want you to listen very carefully to how short and devastating her answer is.
And the dockets they were involved with. Because I struggle to understand the idea that a detective who deals with stock theft in Johannesburg can be given a docket that deals with a political murder that took place in 2016 in KZN. And that person sitting in Johannesburg can then investigate that murder and get to the conclusion of the investigation, whatever that is. I just struggle with that, and I'm hoping, and I know it's not your fault, this was dropped in your lap, but I'm struggling to understand how that was going to work. Can you just enlighten us, please?
Okay, thanks, Commissioners. At our disposal, there was no a plan. I was never given a plan. The ball was in my hand. I have to devise a plan, and I devised a plan.
There it is, plain and simple. There was no plan. I was never given a plan. Guys, let that sink in for a moment. The Political Killings Task Team, a unit investigating 118 political murders in one of the most violent provinces in South Africa, was disbanded. And there was no plan for what would happen next. None. Zero. Zilch. The people in charge at the National Police Headquarters, the generals and the National Commissioner, shut down this unit without a single written document explaining how the work would continue. And the person who got stuck holding the bag, Major General Motsepe, had to figure it out herself. She says, "The ball was in my hand. I have to devise a plan." Guys, this is not how a professional organization operates. This is not how you run a police service. Can you imagine if a hospital closed down its trauma unit and did not have a plan for where the gunshot victims would go? Can you imagine if the fire department shut down a fire station and did not have a plan for who would respond to fires in that area? It would be chaos. People would die. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. Except instead of fire victims, we are talking about murder victims' families. Instead of patients, we are talking about unsolved political assassinations. The lack of planning is not just incompetent, it is cruel. It is a betrayal of every family waiting for justice. But wait, it gets worse. Because after admitting there was no plan, Major General Motsepe goes on to describe what happened on May 19th, 2025. That is the day she was called into a meeting with her bosses, General Sibiya and General Senzo. And in that meeting, they told her that she now has to take charge of these 118 dockets. Remember, she is not the provincial commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal. She does not have jurisdiction there. She does not have local knowledge. But because Mkhwanazi refused, and because the National Commissioner said, "Use your discretion," the ball lands in her lap. And here is what they tell her to do. Dlamini, play this clip. This is where the absurdity reaches peak levels.
I found General Sibiya and General Senzo. Then General Sibiya said that maybe I've already heard that General Mkhwanazi refuses the docket, and the National Commissioner now says he must use his own discretion in those dockets. Then General Sibiya said that because of the political killing falls under your mandate, under your component, now the ball is in your court. You must see to it what you do with those dockets, assemble officers so that you can proceed investigating those dockets.
Assemble officers, just like that. As if you are assembling furniture from OK Furniture. As if 118 complex political murder investigations can just be handed off to whoever happens to be available. General Sibiya tells her, political killings fall under your mandate, so now the ball is in your court. Assemble officers and proceed with investigating. No proper briefing on the cases. No coordination with the KwaZulu-Natal prosecutors. No consultation with the families. Just assemble officers and get to work. And here is where it gets truly ridiculous. Let me show you who Major General Motsepe assembled to investigate political murders in KwaZulu-Natal. Dilamini, play the next section.
General, no problem, we'll proceed. Then I phoned Brigadier Khoporitata just to assemble officers. And then I even mentioned, can you get Colonel Mdluli and Colonel Mashili? And then they must identify some other officers. Actually, I said if they can be maybe plus minus 10, 8 to 10 officers.
8 to 10 officers. She is told to assemble a team, so she calls a brigadier and says, get me 8 to 10 people. Now you might be thinking, okay, these must be highly experienced detectives, right? These must be people with expertise in political violence, organized crime. Maybe some of them worked with the original PKTT, right? Wrong. Let me show you what the commissioner asked her about this so-called team. Because this is where the whole thing becomes a complete joke.